Hello everyone. I'm so sorry. The initial live stream got disconnected. I wasn't paying attention to my screen. So please let's just be patient for some time to get everyone to join back. I'm so sorry, everyone. If you can hear me, I'm still on the call. I'm just trying to make sure that everyone joins back. Sorry, the last live ended. I don't know what happened, but please just kindly give me a few minutes so we can get everyone back on. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Please just confirm you can hear me. I hope everyone is back now and we can continue. Sorry for that break off. I'm just going to do a recap from where we stopped. So we're trying to merge two columns together, or I'm trying to do like a merge between two columns. We're trying to do a merge between two columns. Please confirm you can hear me clearly and everyone is okay. I think everyone is together. So if you try the same method for your phone number, the only reason why it shows error is because your phone is not formatted as a text. The data type is not text, is number. That's why you're getting an error. All right, so just to continue, we're talking about merging two columns, right? Now, when it comes to merging columns, I mentioned something. First thing first, you want to select the first column you want to merge, which is first name. And then you select the second column, last name. And then you go to your add column tab. Okay, you want to go to your add column tab. So when you go to your add column to select the both columns, make sure that you hold your control key, right? Select the first column, then hold your control key and select the second column. Then you want to go to add column. Okay, so when you go to add column, you're going to see this merge column here. You want to click on that. So when you click on merge column, it's going to bring up this pop-up that asks you to choose how you want to merge the selected columns, right? Now, it's first thing it requires you to do is a separator. A separator can be like a space, an hyphen, or anything. So if we click on the drop down, you can see there are different separators, right? There are different separators. So in this case, the separator that we want to select is a space, right? We want to put a space between first name and last name. So if I click on space, I can put a new column name. So what do I want to call the column that I'm merging? I want to call it full name. So I'll just clean what is there and type full name, okay? And I will click on OK. And automatically, if I scroll down to the end, it's going to see it has added a new column called full name. Is this clear to everybody? Are we following? If you're following, just drop a thumbs up or a reaction so I know everyone is following. Just a second to be sure that everyone is back on here. All right. Okay, let's continue. The next thing we are going to do is we've looked at how to merge columns, right? So under the text transformation, two things that we've looked at now is how to replace null values. We've also looked at how to replace, how to combine two columns, right? Now let's look at how to split columns. And I'm going to use an example that we have here. Look at this column called full address that we have here, this full address column. I hope everyone can see this full address column. Now, what if we don't want the full address? We just want like to split, because you can see this full address contains like the streets, the city, and the country, right? What if we want different columns that, you know, maybe want to do our analysis by country? So we want another column that contains country, and we want another column that contains what? The city, right? If we want to do that, how do we exactly go about that? So what we're going to do is to split this column, right? And to do that, we're going to go to our transform tab. So under transform tab, select the column you want to split and just go ahead and do split column. Now, in most cases, sometimes you might want to still leave your full address column. So what you can do is duplicate column. How do you duplicate column in Power Query? Right click, okay, and you would see duplicate column. So if you right click, you can see duplicate column. So I'm just going to click on, you know, duplicate column. That way we have another column that we call full address, right? Copy. And this way we can split this particular column. So I can select this column right now and do what? Split. So I'm just going to select this and I will do split column. And when you click on split column, it's going to ask you, how do you want to split this column? Now, there are different ways to actually split a column, right? Either by delimiter, by number of characters, by positions, by lowercase to uppercase, by uppercase to lowercase, or depending on how you want to actually split that particular column. Okay, so if you choose by delimiter is just saying like by separator. Like if you want to use split the column maybe by a comma or by a space or by anything in that likes, right? That is what delimiter is saying. Excuse me. Then when we say by number of characters is saying, okay, maybe count 5 numbers or count 5 letters before you actually split the column. Same thing when you say by position. Maybe you want to say anywhere you see S, split it, or anywhere you see Y, split it. By lowercase to uppercase, you are saying when there's a lowercase, split it. Wherever you see the lowercase, split from there. Same thing by digits to non-digit, right? You want to say wherever there's a number, split from there. So in this case, I want to split by comma, because if you look at this, where our column is separated by columns, right? Our column is separated by columns. Our column is separated by commas rather. So what I want to do is select this column, okay, and then go to under your transform tab, you see split column. Click on split column, and then you want to select by delimiter, because comma is a delimiter, right? It will bring out this pop-up. When it brings this pop-up, it's going to ask you specify the delimiter used to split the text column. So it's asking you, how do you want to split this text column? And by default, sometimes it would automatically detect if there's a comma or space in your data. And in our own case, it has detected this comma. If it is not a comma, you can click on the drop down and change it. In fact, if what you are looking for is not here, you can pick a custom and type what you want it to split by. Okay, you can type what you want it to split by. The next thing is, want to go, okay, I see a question. Somebody said if this thing will work for Power Query on Excel. Yes, it's the same thing. The Power Query on Power BI is the same Power Query you have on Excel. All right, so the next thing you want to do is, it's going to ask you split at leftmost delimiter, rightmost delimiter, or each occurrence of the delimiter. Now what this thing is telling you is that if from the left, if you start looking at my data from the left, or my column from the left, the first comma you see on the left, split it. The first comma you see on the right, split it. But if you say each occurrence of the delimiter, you're saying anywhere you see comma, split my data, right? And then the next thing we're just going to do is, because we wanted to split it at each occurrence of the comma, we'll click on OK. And immediately you can see it has splitted our data into 3 different columns, right? It has splitted our data into 3 different columns. It has splitted our data into 3 different columns. So now we can go ahead and rename these columns to what we want to call it. So maybe this one, the first one can be address. Second one can be what? Maybe town or city. And then the last one we can call country. So this way it has splitted our columns based on that comma. Okay, I hope everyone is following and we all understand what I've just done here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at how to deal with inconsistencies. I think somebody asked a question yesterday about, like, you know, when you're dealing with a column and there are emojis that you cannot see, how do you undo those kind of data? So I would use an example here. Let's go to our column, our color column, and I want you to do something quickly for me, guys. I'm going to click on the drop down, and I want you to look at this column and tell me what you think is wrong with this column. Let me know what you think is wrong here. What are the inconsistencies or problem you can see on this column? Good. Somebody that I can see NA, I can see blank, I can see this thing. So yes, we have a lot of problems with these wrong spellings, right? Yellow is misspelled. So we have to deal with all these things. Now, in analysis, when you have a data that has multiple, spellings, right? It's the same word, but multiple. When you try to analyze this data, you get inconsistency, like you get a very wrong, inaccurate result. And you don't want that. So you have to deal with this during your data cleaning. Now, how do we do that? The first thing we are going to do is to try to standardize this, right? We want to make sure that instead of maybe, let's make sure that maybe all our first, we want to capitalize all the first words. Let all our first letters rather be capitalized, right? So how do we do that here on Power BI? So we're going to click on this. the column in question, which is our color column, right? And then we go to format. Under your transform tab, you see format. You see format, and then what you want to do is you can make everything lowercase if you want. You can make everything uppercase if you want. You can also capitalize each word. And in our case, that is what we want to do, right? So I'm just going to do capitalize each word. And if I click on the drop down now, you can see we now have one variation of multi and one variation of silver. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to try to do over here is we want to deal with what? This NA here. Now, you can see that we don't have missing values, and that is why you have to be careful. You can see in our data profile, our column profiling, we don't have missing values, but we can see NA, 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 and you have to deal with those NA, right? So what we're going to do is click on the column in question, right click, and then we're going to use what did I mention before? Our replace values method. So we're going to do replace values, and then what do I want to find? I want to find NA, and I want to replace it with unknown, and I'm going to click on OK. And the last thing we're going to deal with on this column is incorrect spelling, which is this yellow that is spelled as YEELO. And we can use the same method, right? Which is, you know what, right clicking, doing replace values, and the yellow is what is YEELOW, and then we're replacing with what the correct spelling of yellow, right? And you click on OK. This should be easy. We should know how to replace values by now, which everybody should know how to do replace values by now. I think it's one of the simplest things to do. So we've been able to treat this particular column, and we've made sure that everything is uniform. Now, what if we add one space? Yeah, like maybe there was a space in this particular column. How do we undo that? Now, when you want to deal with space, emojis, leading spaces or trailing spaces, the way to deal with that is to come to your format, okay, and use the trim and clean method. So you do trim to remove spaces that you might have on your this thing. Go to format again. You can do clean to remove emojis, okay, to remove emojis. Now that way we've been able to clean this. So now we've looked at how to replace values in text data. We've also looked at how to split text data. We've looked at how to combine text data, and we've also looked at how to, replace missing values in text data. By now, I'm sure everybody should understand numerical transformation and text transformation to an extent. To an extent. All right. The next thing that we want to look at now is date transformation. How do you actually deal with missing values in your date column, right? To deal with missing values in your date column, it's a different ball game entirely. And just like, excuse me, just like I mentioned earlier on, the first thing that you want to make sure that you are doing is understand why that column is missing. I think I have a date column here. Good. I have two dates columns in this particular table, right? I have two particular columns in this two particular data, two particular values here, right? Now, or two particular dates columns. Now, date of birth. I'll start with date of birth. Now, in a case where you have missing values in a column like date of birth, you cannot accurately guess someone's date of birth. So in these cases, you want to leave it as it is. I will give you another example that is not in this our data. Imagine you run a logistics company where people place order for a product and you have to ship out this product. Sometimes there will be an order, but the order might still be in the office. It might have not been shipped. Now, if you have like a database that is collecting this data, it means that your ship dates will be blank for this kind of orders, right? And in those cases, you just have to leave it as it is. You don't need to change anything or touch anything there. Because if you fill it with, mean, median, or whatever method you want to use to replace that, you would end up destroying your data, right? You end up messing up with your data. So you want to leave it as it is. So the next thing that we're going to look at in this place is registration dates. Now, cases where you have data like your registration date, it's not possible that your registration date is blank, because somebody had to have registered on a particular day. Am I making sense? So most times when you're dealing with this kind of data, what we use is the fill up and the fill down method. Okay, we use the fill up and the fill down method. This is assuming that your data comes in a format, right? Now, how do you actually do the fill up or fill down method? You select the column in question, which is this registration date that we want to deal with. You would come to your transform tab. Under your transform tab, you're going to see this fill option. So when you click on fill, you can see fill down and fill up. Now, fill down will pick what the value down next to it below and replace it, while your fill down rather will take the value on top and put it down, while the fill up will take the number down and fill it up. So if I do fill down, what do we have here? 2802-2022. If I do fill down, what I'm going to see is 2802-2022. If I delete that and we decide to use fill up method, if I do fill up, it's going to pick the one below, which is 1501-2023, and replace that. That is how to deal with your dates, missing values in your dates. Please, are we together? Are we together? Let me know if we are together. In case you don't understand anything or whatever we are doing here, please just go back to the recordings. It's very important that you go back to the recordings, because I cannot tell you that you will understand it at one go. It took me 2 years to master Power BI. So, and it took me a lot of practice, consistent practice, to be able to master Power BI. So it all depends on your practice. Okay. The next thing that we're going to look at is our we're going to move into merge and append and pivoting and unpivoting columns. And for that, to do that, we're going to be bringing in another data, still our data transformation file. Now, remember when we wanted to bring in data into Power BI, we had to go to Power BI desktop, do get data. But now I'm on Power Query editor, but I want to bring in another data. Can I do that here? The answer is yes. Now, how do I do that? So what you are going to do is to click on new source. Okay, you want to click on new source. You can see something similar to what we had on Power BI desktop, right? And then you can click on more if what you are looking for is not there, and it will show you the same interface, right? But because it's an Excel workbook, I'm just going to select Excel workbook, and I will do what? I would click on connect. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on data transformation file. Before I proceed, I just want to look at the comment section to be sure that I don't have any serious questions. You're taking just the first dates below or the first empty cell, right? Or above? Yes, just the date above the empty cell, the date above or the dates below the empty cell. Please, if you don't understand how to deal with inconsistency, like it's very vague, you might have to just watch the recordings, because we've been looking at a lot of things: missing values, duplicates, combining, splitting, and all that. So we're just going to proceed. So I'm going to click on the data transformation file, and I will click on open. And it's going to show me those same tables that I saw before, right? And I want to click on this. The data I want to work with right now is this pivot and unpivot column. And I'm going to click on OK. Somebody is asking, in which case do we replace with the most frequent value? Now, like I said, replacing missing values is depending on when you understand your data. I know most times when people are doing machine learning and all of that, they replace with the mode, right? Now, when you're dealing with categorical variables, yes, you can replace with the mode. But most times, I always like, because I feel like you cannot entirely guess what color of products that is, right? This is data analysis, not machine learning. You're not trying to build a model. This is data analysis. So most times it's just best to replace your categorical variable with unknown or missing. That is the best route I go with. Now let's look at the data. First thing first, what can you see? What do you think is wrong with the data on the screen? What do you think is the first thing we are going to do with this data? If you can't find fill up and fill down, you'll find fill on this place. This is where the fill is. What do you think is wrong with this data? No, you can't work with the mobile app. You would have to download it on a desktop. You cannot build a report on your mobile app. What do we think? Thank you. The header. The header is one of the problems that we have with this particular so we have to do what do we have to do to this thing to change it? Remember what I talked about, right? When you bring this thing and you can see that the first row looks like the header, you're going to do what? Use first row as header. So we'll go back to our home tab and we're just going to use first row as header, and automatically this has implemented, right? Now the next thing we want to try to do is clean up this data. If you notice, we have this is year and we have like the values as text, not number. How do we change that as well? I'm sure we can do that on our own. Is by replacing value, right? We have to take out the dollars, and I'm going to do all of them at a go instead of one after the other. So I'll select 1, 2, 3 column. Okay, so I'm going to select all 3 columns. Remember how to select 3 of them. Select the first column, then hold your control key and select the other 2, and then we're just going to do what? Replace values. And what value do I want to find? Remember, is the dollar sign, and I want to replace that with nothing. So I will click on OK, and immediately it takes that out all at once, right? And then we want to change our data type. For this one, we're going with what? O number, because I think it's in O number. So O number. And then for the second one, we also have O number, and the last one we have O number. Now, this data that you are looking at is an example of what we call a wide form of data. Now, imagine a scenario where you have like this data from maybe 1900 to like 2005 or 2025, right? And you want to do analysis. It's going to be very difficult, because what it means is that you would have to do a summation of all the old rows before you do this thing. And this is very common when you are dealing with data from any data that has to do with SDGs, like all this mortality rate, world GDPs and the likes, right? You see this a lot in those kind of data, government kind of data. You see this a lot. So what we need to do in this case, what we need to do in this case is to do what we call unpivoting unpivoting our columns, right? Unpivoting our columns. That is what we're going to do in this particular case. And what does it mean to actually unpivot your columns? Now, when we talk about, let's start with unpivoting, because that is what we want to look at now, right? Unpivoting is you basically converting your columns into rows, right? And it is used when your data is too wide and you want to normalize it for analysis. So it's either this is what we call wide form of data. There's wide form of data and there's a long form of data. So if you want to convert this from a wide form to a long form, you use what we call unpivot columns here in Power BI. So how do I unpivot this column? I will select all 3 columns that I want to unpivot, which is 2019, 2020, and 2021. And I'm going to go back to my transform tab. And under my transform tab, you would see unpivot columns here, right? And I'm just going to click on pivot column. Now there are 2 ways. You can either do unpivot columns or click on the drop down and maybe select product and do unpivot other columns, right? Because imagine a scenario where this thing is 50 years. That means you'd have to start selecting these things 50 times. So instead of doing that, you can just select the column you don't want to unpivot, which is products, and then click on the drop down and say unpivot other columns. So it's going to give you the same result when you select all columns and unpivot the column. You can see now it has converted that year into rows, right? And the values as well into rows. So this way I can just come here, instead of calling this attribute, I can rename this to call it year. I hope this is easy to understand, or we understand what I've just done here. This is advanced Power BI, by the way, but I hope this is easy to understand. and it's not too technical. So the data I brought in is the pivot on pivot columns. That is the data that we're working with. So now if you want to send it back to the to how it looked like before, right? You can still select both of them, the two columns. At this time around, what will you do? Pivot columns. What does pivot columns do? It converts rows into it. So if I click on pivot column now, it's going to ask me what I want to pivot by, and I want to pivot by the value, right? So I would click on OK, and it will take me back to the default place. So it has converted it back to a wild format. How do you know when to unpivot? Now, when you have a wide form of data, for example, imagine I have like, let me use the states in Nigeria. Like I have Abia, I have Lagos, Enugu, different states here, and I need to do an analysis of my category by this state. It will be difficult to do that in Power BI, because that means I would have to start summing each of these data one by, it would just be chaotic. So in those cases, you want to pivot. In fact, you would know when you have your data and you have to do analysis. By the time you load it in and you see that you are seeing something different, you would have to come back to Power Query to come and unpivot your column. Okay, now that we have looked at pivoting and unpivoting column, I want us to move to the last thing on our data preparation class, which is merging and appending data. Okay, merging and appending data. Before I do that, I'll just do the pivoting again. So what did I do? I selected product, because product is the one that I don't want to unpivot, right? And then what did we do? I just went to this unpivot column. That's under your transform tab. You would see unpivot column. Click on the drop down, right? And then just see unpivot other columns. And then it would unpivot this and this. And then you can just rename these attributes that it gives you here, or it gives you here, and just rename it to here. I hope this is clear. Is super clear. So before we go for our 5 minutes break, I would like to just, so that we can wrap up data preparation, and then we'll come back, we'll start looking at data modeling. So I want us to quickly bring in another data that we're going to use to do merge and append. Okay, so I would go to new source again, Excel workbook, and I want to bring in another data, still same on that our data transformation file that we've been working on, right? Still same on that our data transformation file. So what I'm going to do this time around is I am going to click on I'm going to go ahead and bring in this marketing data 3, 1, and 2. So I'm selecting 3 files. You can see marketing data 3. I've checked the box for marketing data 3, 1, and 2. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. So now I have 3 data here: marketing data 3, marketing data 1, and marketing data 2, right? I have these 3 data here in my table. I brought it in. Now imagine a scenario. You are somebody that you always collect data, maybe every month, right? You collect data every month, and you need to build a centralized report at the end of the year. And you have these 20 or 30 sheets that you need to actually bring in to build your I need to get comments from the set. Is my pace very fast? Am I too fast? Am I too fast? Let me get your reaction if I'm too fast and I need to reduce my pace. Especially from the beginners, I want to know if my pace is too fast. I mean, there's a lot to cover, and I still believe that people can go back and watch. I'm covering the entire Power BI curriculum, trust me. From the beginners, I want the beginners to answer. I feel like the reason why some people are saying I'm fast is because they are trying to practice while I'm working. If you pay attention, you would understand. So please, I want you people to just look at the screen. You can always watch the recording. I promise you, you can always watch the recording. I'm trying to carry everybody along, but I'm also trying to be considerate. I will try to reduce my pace again a little bit, but please, let's know that we have a lot to, except you want me to jump a lot of things and just skip a lot of things, right? But I will try to reduce, I'll just try to maybe slow down a bit. All right, let's continue. So the very first thing that I want to talk about, or what we're talking about now, right? We're talking about appending data. Okay, now when it comes, imagine a scenario where you are collecting data month by month, like you have a supermarket and every month you have your data, and at the end of the year you want to build a report, right? You want to build a report at the end of the year, meaning you have to combine all these data together to be able to build a report. Now let's assume that this marketing data 1 is our January data, marketing data 2 is our February data, marketing data 3 is our March data, right? And we need to combine all 3 of them. Now for you to be able to append data in Power BI, number 1 rule, all your columns must be the same. If you have a column that is not in another is not in the second data, that column will return nulls for that particular column, right? So you want to make sure first of all that they each all have the same columns. And when I talk about the same columns, I'm talking about this, right? For example, if you look at this, there's campaign ID. If I come to 1, there's campaign ID, and if I come to 2, there's campaign ID. Okay, so we want to merge these 3, right? Now you can either append want to append all 3. You can either append this as a new table or append 2 and 3 on top of 1. But in this case, I want to still keep my original data. I want to create a new table that will append the 3 of them. Now, when we say append, what it's doing is it's going to bring 2, put it under here, bring 3, put it under here. So now to append, on your home tab, look at the right hand corner here, right? You would see append queries. So what we want to do, because I want to create a new table, instead of just clicking on append queries, I'll click on this drop down and I'll say append queries as new. Okay, and then what I want to, it's going to bring up this, and it's going to tell you concatenate rows from 2 tables into a single table. Now if I was working with just 2 tables, I would just select the second table. But because we are trying to combine how many tables? 3, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and click 3 tables, right? And then once I click on 3 tables, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, because by default it has already selected marketing data 1, right? By default it has already selected marketing data 1. Now we can now select marketing data 2 and click on add. We select marketing data 3 and we'll click on add, right? And then the next thing we are going to do is click on OK. And automatically it is going to append all 3 data. You can see now we have from 101 to 310, right? Because this one is 101 to 110, 2 is what? 201 to 210, 3 is 301 to 310. So it has combined all 3. It has created a new table that has combined all 3 in one table. You can see we have 30 rows. Do you understand? Now, the next thing we are going to do, we can now rename this to, let's just call this marketing data. So we're just going to call this table marketing. So this is how to append tables in Power BI. Okay? The next thing I'm going to, I hope this space is good and we understand what I've just talked about in appending data. And if I give you a data to append, you'll be able to do that. Okay? The next thing we are going to look at currently is merging data. Okay? Let's look at merging data. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring in another data now. So I will do new source, okay? And I will do Excel workbook. We already know how to do this process. So I'm not spending a lot of time on it. And then click on data transformation. And then I'll click on open. Okay? Now the next thing I want to do is I want to select 2 new files. And I'm selecting this sales data and I'm selecting this feedback data. These are the 2 tables I want to work with. So just look for feedback data, check the box, sales data, check the box, and then we'll click on OK. And then I want to go ahead and do my feedback data. I just want to refresh this. So in case it shows you settings, you can just refresh. Okay. Now, the next thing, please, we're going to take a break very soon. I want us to just complete data preparation. So when I'm coming back, I know I'm not touching data cleaning again. So the next thing we are going to do right now is imagine a scenario. Let me give you an instance. Now, you have you've collected, like people come to buy products in your store, right? And you've collected like their details, right? The number of the product they bought, the quantity. Now you want to get like you want to collect feedback, or you decide to collect feedback, right? And these same customers have dropped feedback for your product, and this is the feedback that you've collected. Now, this particular feedback that you've collected, they just they didn't put the, you can't see what customer dropped which feedback, so you don't know what products that they are referring to, right? First thing first, something is wrong with this table. We already know, right? We already know what to do in this case. We are going to use first row as header as usual. So let me just do that. Use first row as header. We can also go ahead and change the data type. I mean, if you're working on your own, you know how to do that. Just do that, right? Well, what I just want to teach you is how to merge two tables together. Now, we want to see, okay, this customer, right? This is. Okay, what product is this customer even talking about, right? And if we come here, we would see that these are the customers that bought the products, right? Now, for you to be able to merge two tables together, you see, just like how on append, the column names have to be the same. On merge, there has to be a unique column in both of them. And in our case, we have customer ID here, okay? And in feedback data, we have what? Customer ID here. So we want to bring in our feedback data into this sales data. And just like I did for the marketing data, I want to create a new table. So what I'm going to do is I will just go to I'll select my sales data, and I will go to merge queries. So merge queries is under your home tab. So I will go to merge queries, but instead of merge queries, I will do merge queries as new. So I will click on merge queries as new, okay? And then I'm going to it's going to bring up this pop-up that says select table and matching rows to create a merged tables. So what I'm going to do right now is I would click on this drop down, and I will go and select what's the table I want to select. Feedback data. That's my second table. Automatically, my first table is selected for me because that's the table I selected when I went to click on merge queries as new. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to select is going to show you join kind. Join kind is saying, how do you want to merge this table? And I will explain. There are several join kinds in Power BI, and I'll start from the first one that says left outer. Left outer is saying, give me everything from this first table and look for where it is matching the second one. Meaning, if I have 10 in this table, look for 10. If I have customer ID 101, look for customer ID 101 in this table and bring it here. Bring everything that has to do with customer ID 101 here. So it's going to bring everything from this table where it is matching. If there is something in this table that is not in this table, it will return null. Okay, that is how left outer. Right outer will do the opposite. It will bring everything from the second table where it is matching the first one. Okay, it will bring everything from the second table where it is matching the first one. The next thing is full outer. What full outer does is everything from the first, everything from the second. Okay, same thing, but inner will do only matching rows. So you will just look at this place. If I have 101 here and I have 101 here, that is what it will bring. If there is something here that is not here, it will not return it. So it will only bring what is here and what is here, only matching rows. In fact, the most popular that you would use, let me even be this in, is your left join. Okay, is your left join. That is what you are going to mostly use. Left join, full join, and maybe inner join, right? Those are the three most popular joins, and I don't think anyone ever writes a right join or uses a right join. But just know that is what these things mean. The next thing we are going to do is we want to leave it as left outer because we want to see everything that this customer or all these customers in our sales data, all the feedback. Okay. Now, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to select the unique identifier. You have to pick what is identical in both tables, which is customer ID. So I've selected customer ID and I will select customer ID. If you don't select it, This, wait, let me, okay, I don't know if I'll be able to unselect. Good. If you select something that is not unique, this okay will not be active. So you have to make sure that you are selecting both columns before you click on okay. And automatically it's going to create a new table that brings both tables side by side. If I come here now, you see I have my feedback table on this place. Okay, I have my feedback table on this place. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and extract our data. Our data is stored in this place. So if you look at this icon here, it's different from everything you are seeing on this place, right? It's different from everything you are seeing on this place. So what we're going to do is this thing that looks like expand, click on it, and it's going to show you all the columns that you add in your feedback table. And because I don't want to use original column name as prefix, I just wanted to return all this. I'm going to uncheck this, because if I leave this checked, what it's going to do is it's going to bring feedback data dot feedback ID feedback, and I don't want that. I just want all this. And I don't think I want customer ID again, because I have customer ID. I mean, you can leave it checked, but do you get? And then I can go ahead and click on OK, and automatically I would see my data by the side. So it has brought in this data from the feedback table, put it side by side. So now the difference between your append and your merge is, while your append will do up to bottom, your merge will do side by side, right? So that's the difference between your append and your merge. So this way I can call this maybe sales feedback. I hope this is clear to everybody and we understand this. We're going to go for our 5 minutes break now, and then when we come back, we'll start looking at data modeling. So we can take a 5 minutes break. This is by 3:15 my time. So just count 5 minutes from now and we'll continue the class. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is back by now. So I'm just going to remember I taught us how to save whatever you're doing, right? So you can just close and apply. And then what we're going to do is, we can save this and just close this file. All right. By now, everyone should be able to beat their chest to say they know data. As long as you can watch the recording and you understand everything that we have spoken about from yesterday till today, you should be able to beat your chest to say you understand data cleaning to an extent, right? I mean, there's still some other technicalities that you will come across that, one thing about data analytics is you have to be able to do your own research too, right? Understand the basics, but at least when you come across an issue, what that issue, you can always go to, make use of AI or Google to say, I want to treat this particular error in Power BI. How do I go about it? Now, because you understand how Power Query Editor works, it becomes easy with whatever results it gives you. So I cannot tell you that we've covered entirely everything, but I can tell you that most of the reoccurring challenges in terms of data cleaning that you come across in Power BI or in data analytics, that is what I've tried to cover in this data preparation. So if you are able to understand what we've talked about yesterday and today, you can beat your chest to say, yes, you understand data preparation in Power BI, okay? So I want to be sure that everyone is back. If you're back, just drop a thumbs up, a reaction, or, anything at all. Okay, good. I can see those reactions. So right now, number 2 on our list, remember I said something, right? There are several skills that you need to know to be able to say you know Power BI. And right now, I can say for a fact that I've been able to teach you and introduce you to data preparation in Power BI. So what we're going to be doing right about now is skill number 2, which is data modeling in Power BI. But first of all, I want every one of you to give yourself a round of applause because you have made it up to this stage, right? Now let's talk about data modeling in Power BI. And some of the things that we're going to be looking at in this particular session of the class is we're going to be looking at, we're going to understand data modeling and its necessity. We're going to look at components of a data model. We're also going to be looking at what facts and dimension tables are, what primary and foreign keys are as well, okay? Those are the things that we're going to be looking at in this session. We're also going to look at schema design and then relationships and cardinality. Those are some of the things that we are going to be looking at in this class. All right, first thing first, what is data modeling and why should we even do data modeling? Okay, I hope everyone is following. I want to try to try to slow down my pace a little bit. Okay, please just let me know if I'm moving too fast. Now, when we talk about data modeling, think of it as this, right? If imagine, I want to make sure that I'm using real world examples here so that we understand some things. Now, imagine a scenario where you have we all have different outfits, right? We have jeans, shirts, polos, socks. Just think of any kind of clothing that you have, right? And imagine a situation where you buy all these outfits, all these clothing, you just pour them inside one basket. And then any time that you need to, look for your socks or you want socks, you have to start, bringing out all the old clothes just to get to or look for a sock. Sometimes you even see one leg of socks, you won't see the other pair, right? This is why I'm likening this situation to data modeling. Now, when you have this kind of scenario, but imagine, picture that these clothes, all these attires that you have, you've splitted them and you've arranged them into different drawers, such that whenever you need your socks, you know where you to go and find socks. Whenever you need your singlets, you know where to go and find singlets. Whenever you need a shirt, you know where you find shirts. Whenever you need jeans, you know where you find jeans. That is what data modeling tries to do. Data modeling is you trying to split your data into smaller tables. Is you splitting one large table. You have one large table of data and you're trying to split it into smaller tables. Are we together, guys? Please let me, I want to be sure that everyone is following. Okay, because I'm seeing some people, some persons are saying they are not hearing anything. I want to be sure that I'm still live. Okay, good. I think we're still live. All right. So the process, data modeling is actually the process of. Can everyone hear me? Please, if you can't hear me, just log out and log back in, because I don't know why people are saying they cannot hear me. Please, if you can hear me, just drop a comment. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think everyone can hear me. Okay, good. All right, sorry for the distraction. So when I talk about data modeling, and also with the example that I've given earlier on, think of on relations. So you're not just splitting it anyhow. You're splitting it based on relationships. Like the example I gave earlier on. Okay, this is socks, Abi socks, go here. This is jeans, all my jeans stay in this place. So that is what you are basically doing in data modeling. You are organizing and structuring your data based on relationships in a way that supports efficient analysis and reporting in Power BI. What does this mean? So if I'm in my Power BI and I'm trying to build a report, if I'm looking for a particular column, I know where to go to, right? I know where to go to. And whenever you are doing this, your data is organized in tables as facts or dimension table. And I will explain what the both of these things mean. So your data is organized as facts table and dimension table. Please, let's pay attention, okay? Now, fact table is where your main business event occurs. And I will explain what this means. Now, let's go back to our supermarket example that we've been using since the start of this class. Now, every time you go to the supermarket, or okay, let me explain what fact table and dimension table, then I will give you the example. Fact table contains main business events. Think of sales, price, quantity, transaction dates, transaction time. That is what your fact table does. And it can contain several repetitive values. But your dimension table contains description of those business events. Things like your customer details, products, location, right? And it only contains unique values. Now, let me give you an example. You go to the supermarket. Maybe there's a supermarket that you go to every month where you do your monthly shopping, right? You do your monthly shopping at this supermarket every month. Now, imagine this supermarket had like a database where they are collecting for every new customer that comes to their supermarket. They collect your information and they put it there. So you are there on the database, right? But every month you come, you buy, maybe you can buy biro today, tomorrow you come, you buy book, next tomorrow you come, you buy milk and different things, right? You are being thrown into another bucket. Now, you see that bucket that contains your information, like your name, your address, your account number, phone number, email, and things. That bucket is what we call dimension table. But you see that other buckets that they always record you anytime you come, the number of products you buy, the number of, that is a fact table. Let me even leave sales. Let me give you another example. You know, if you are familiar with, okay, let me go back to, I'm a Nigerian, and when I was growing up, when we used to do a lot of, so many hospitals used to do a lot of bookkeeping. Now, when I mean bookkeeping, I'm saying that whenever you come to an hospital, right, they would give you what they call a registration card. Right now, there people, these hospitals have gone digital, right? A lot of they've gone digital. They've gone digital, right? But what happens is this: they give you a lot of what's the word? Like they give you card, right? You come there for the very first time, they give you card, you register. When they give you that card and you register, they put your name in, like they open like what we call a file for you. Now, every time you come to the hospital to complain of headache or malaria or fever, they would write down whatever your symptom was and they will file it. Right now, you have your card. That card, there's like a database that contains your information, maybe your name, blood group, genotype, and things like that. Right now, but every time you come, there's a different reason why you're coming to the hospital. Maybe headache, fever. There's another file. Now, that file that contains like your information, like your name, blood group, and that one is called your dimension table. But you see that other file that contains that they keep putting your name every time you come for malaria, fever. That one is called fact table. So fact table is repetitive, right? It can contain repetitive value, while your dimension table only contains unique value. I hope I've been able to explain this in a very in the simplest way possible, right? I've used two different case study to explain data modeling. So I really hope that we understand what I've just talked about. Maybe I can use another instance, right? For example, let's picture a school, right? Let's picture a school, right? And you have like when students come for the very first time to register or do whatever thing, right? There's like a what do I call it? A database that's been opened for the students, right? There's like a database that's been opened for the students, right? Now that database can contain things like the student's name, their address, even date of birth, gender, and maybe a class ID can also be generated for them, right? It can contain all of those kind of information. But now think of your fact table as whenever there's an exam, these students can write like 10, 20 exams, right? Now that exams can be like a fact table. That exam can be like a fact table. That the exam table, right, that contains like the grades of the student, because it's repetitive. You can have like mathematics, the value of the student or the grade of the student. You can have English. That is a fact table. So that this is another example, and I hope I've been able to simplify this, right? Now let's talk about why data modeling is actually very important. Okay, let's talk about why data modeling is very important. Number one, it helps you organize data efficiently. I already mentioned an example. Now think of a scenario where you have like one large table. Maybe the table has 200 columns, right? And you need a particular value, and maybe these 200 columns has 20 dates. If you want to pick any date, you'll be confused on which date is which date. You might not even know which one is order date or ship date or whatever. So you have to be very, very careful, right? To actually pick whatever you want to pick. So data modeling helps you organize your data. So you know that, okay, this is my customer details. This is my product information. This is my location information. That is what data modeling helps you do. Number two, it helps you create accurate dashboards and reports. What this means is that you are picking the right data from the right source. I mean, I need ship dates. I'm not picking other dates, right? You're picking the right data from the right source. Number three, it helps reduce redundancy. Imagine if you had one large table, meaning that you are going to have like customer name appearing 20 times. But imagine if I split my table and I have like a customer information table. My customer name can be unique on the customer dimension table, and I don't need customer name on that facts table anymore. You would see it when we start practicalizing, you understand? So it helps reduce all those redundancy. Number four rather, it helps improve performance. Now, when you're working with a large table in Power BI, by the time you start creating all your reports and everything, sometimes you just realize that your report is lagging because you have brought in a lot of this in and your data is this. But by the time you've splitted your tables into smaller tables, it helps improve the performance of your reports. It helps to improve the performance of your reports. That is why data modeling is very important. And last but not the least, It helps you create calculated columns and measures. If you want to be able to write proper DAX, you need to understand data modeling. Okay, another thing that is not here, but it still falls in organizing your data. Imagine that you are the data analyst for an organization, or you have been employed as a data analyst for an organization, and you go there and you just see data everywhere. If there's no proper data model, you will not understand how things work there. So this is what a data model also helps you do. Okay, that is what it helps you do. I hope this is clear enough. I hope this is clear enough. All right, let's move on. What are the components of a data model? Okay, the components of a data model. Number one, entity. Entity is a person, place, or concept about which data is collected. What does this mean? For example, your customer, just think of your entity as that table, as that table or that data that contains like all the information that you need, like all the information about that particular. For example, your customer entity will include all your customer information, like name, address, email, and phone number. Number two, attributes. Attributes just contains a piece of information about an entity. I mentioned that entity is like that table that contains the information, right? Now, in that your customer table, you can have your customer name, right? You can also have your customer phone number. That is an attribute. Then the next component is relationship. And when we're talking about relationship is the connection between two or more entities. For example, when you have a database of customer and orders, right? Customer actually places order. So that is the relation. So there's a relationship between customer and order because a customer places an order. So relationship is actually, when you think of relationship, just think of relationship as a connection between two or more tables. Okay. And the last one is cardinality. I'll not spend a lot of time here. I want to talk about it when we go to Power BI, but just think of cardinality as the number of entities that can be associated with another. I mean, let me even explain it. I gave an instance of you as a customer going to supermarket, right? That is one this thing. Now you as that customer, you can come 20 times to that same supermarket to place order, right? Now there's one occurrence of you in their customer database, and there's 20 occurrence of you in their sales database where you place, like, to show that you have come 20 times. That is a cardinality. That kind of cardinality is called one to many. So that is a one-to-many relationship. So there are three different types of cardinality: one-to-many or many-to-one, one-to-one, and many-to-many. Okay, so we have one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. Okay, those are the cardinality types that we have, and I already gave an instance of one-to-many. And one-to-many is the most popular cardinality type that you would always see. Okay, now let's move on. I want to talk about the concept of primary and foreign key, and this is because it is very important. Please, I need to be sure that everybody is following, so just drop some reactions. This is very important when you are doing data modeling, and I'll tell you what a primary key is and what a foreign key is. And when we talk about primary key is a column in a table that uniquely identifies a record in the table. What does this mean? Think of your primary key as a unique identifier and even the possible smallest units in your table. And it is always unique. Let me give you a real life example, right? Real life example is, for example, we all have like our passport identification number or our national identification number. That is an example of a primary key, because no two persons can have the same primary key. No two persons, and a primary key cannot be null as well. So primary key is that column in a table that uniquely identifies uniquely identifies a record. Now, when your primary key is found in another table, okay, when your primary key is found in another table, it acts as a bridge between it's called your foreign key, and it acts as a bridge between one table and another table. Now, what this means is that when you see your primary key in another table, it is called a foreign key. Okay, it is called a foreign key. Now, another thing you should understand is, let me give you even a real world example. My name is Tina. I'm a Nigerian and I live in Nigeria. Okay. If I travel to the UK or US or Canada, I become a foreigner there. That is an example